It's okay.
Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order for the day. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Citizens to be heard. Seeing none at this time. Approval of minutes of the May 19th and 26th, 2015 meetings.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Payment of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the payment of bills and vouchers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve Assistant County Attorney Labor Contract for 2015 through 2017. Darren, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Darren.
Thanks for having me. I get to go first this time. This is
Yeah.
very unusual. I'm not sure I'm ready. All right. What you have is the final contract negotiations that we were in for 2015. It was with the Assistant County Attorneys. We met with them at the end of 2014 for their 2015 contract. There was some back and forth that we had with them. We did end up going to mediation, but in the end, we did get the 2% for 15, 2% for 16, and the 3.25% for 17, a 3-year contract. There was a couple changes in the contract that in my opinion, probably benefited us a little bit, and that was the language that a probationary employee cannot grieve a dismissal because they are during their probationary period. We've tried to be adding that into all the other contracts, and we've been pretty successful at that. The other thing that was added was that there would be no grieving of oral reprimands, coaching memos, or performance evaluations, which is something that is still kind of up in the air in some of the other contracts of whether you can really grieve a oral reprimand or something like that. So, and the last thing that we got in there was a piece on choice of remedy, and that has been in some of the other contracts as well that I've probably explained to you before with the social workers and case aides and some of the other contracts that we've got that language in there. The request I have for you today is to approve the Assistant County Attorney's contract. They will be retro paid back to 1 January to include the steps and everything. The MOU that is attached includes the senior assistant county attorney wage that once they're at the step 12, 3 years after they reach step 12, they would get senior assistant county attorney pay, which let me see, I have that. It is for this year. It's goes up $1.80 per hour. And that is only for the attorneys that were present previous to August 7th, 2012, I think it was. So we only actually have three attorneys that are still eligible for that pay. And that was done as part of bringing them onto our grid. Yep, on the last contract in the 2012, 13, and 14 contract. As of this year, the juvenile detention, the lieutenants, and detox are the 3 bargaining units that expire this year, and we'll probably start negotiations with them, in the September, October timeframe of this year. So, any questions?
Any questions?
Clarify for me what the retro paid back, how that happens.
We did not give them, they're not on they didn't get the 2% basically because the contract was still in flux. And so once we have signed the contract, we would go back and give them the 2% for the 2015.
On one check? Or?
Yeah, and then also there was, I think 1 or 2 of them that did not get their step as well, so we would have to figure that in as well. Because one of their initial proposals was that steps would continue. Well, when all this went into mediation, we stopped all the steps until the contract was signed. So then they will go back and we'll give them not only their steps, but their 2% increase for the 2015 year.
Any other questions,
Yeah.
Frank?
Why don't we have negotiations with everybody at the same time? Or, I mean, why aren't all the contracts due at the same time? I mean, it looks to me like we settle one, then the next one, okay, I want this plus more, and...
Yeah. You know, that's been discussed a couple times. I think we're kind of in two camps, different camps. Some people think we should just do them all at the same time. I think Mike Ringo is kind of under the impression it's nice to have this every couple years, because what happens is it kind of gets the ball rolling on some of the other ones to get them moving. And so I guess it's just the pros and cons of both. But I know Mike Ringo is kind of under the camp of doing a couple every year instead of having them all at the same time.
It seems to me like you approve one, the next one's always going to be, well, I want that plus more,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Well, the plus more, though, Frank, is it becomes harder for them to get the plus more, because you've already established
yeah, and it was kind of nice because the deputies established early at the 2.2 and 3 1/4, and then the social workers and case aides followed suit, and then the county attorneys followed later. If we did them all at the same time, you could have some, you could have 9 bargaining units bargaining for different wage increases. So, yeah, it's, like I said, it's some pluses and minuses, and
With our minuses, okay.
yes.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, move to approve the contract with member.
Second.
Motion and second. Brian, you have something?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I think the motion should include back pay because that is discretionary at the board's desire. It was negotiated that, but it is still at this time just a point of negotiation, so it would be a board decision to make the back pay.
Part of the
You would include that in your motion,
With the
in your
memo,
second.
I'm understanding.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, Darren.
Okay, thank you.
Joe. Approval to replace Family Service Center Area Rescue Alert System. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a few weeks back, Brian and I and Georgia had met with the Buildings Commission to go over the building campus improvement list. And one of the items on there that we determined was pretty critical was the stairwell alert system over in the Family Service Center. It's kind of also known as the Area Rescue System. It's basically a help button that you push in each stairwell to alert the fire department that you need assistance in the stairwells. It rings to a main panel down in the lobby. It's required by code through the fire department, or building code actually. So what we did is we worked with Rick Electric and Simplex to obtain 2 quotes. And as you can see, Rick's came in at lower at $13,800. So right now I'd be requesting that we move forward with this project for the funds to be paid out of equipment repair fund out of the Family Service Center budget. Any
Is this
questions?
system, it's failed or it's failing?
It is failed. It's in the existing system from the old hospital, or when it was a hospital, so it does not function at all, so.
I so move that we approve the low bid of Rick Electric.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Joe.
Joe.
Okay, review Rethink Mental Health Initiative, approval of the Bush Grant Award. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
We have provided you some information in your packet about the assessment and the mental health issue. I'm just going to talk a little bit about our community health assessments. Public health has been doing those for years, since 1976. And hospitals were required to do community health assessments, I think it was back in 2012. So we're now working together on those community health assessments, which is great. They're required to have public health and other partners at the table. So our last community health assessment was 2013, and in fact, we're working on the next one that, for the hospitals, is 2016 that it's due. Public health is every 4-year requirement. The hospitals have an every 3-year requirement, so we're kind of off schedule, but to work with our partners, public health is just going to need to do those more frequently, every 3 years. It makes sense to do those together. But some of the initiatives that came out of that community health assessment, as you can see, is mental health, obesity, and services for the elder. Those were some of the top priorities through this process. And one of the initiatives that Gina's working with other community partners on is really the Rethink Mental Health. And that is hence why we're receiving the Bush Grant Award and going to be requesting a position. But I'll let Gina at least brief you on her Rethink Mental Health initiative.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
We, and I think most of you should be, or are on a mailing list that I have about the Rethink Mental Health. So when we've been having events and different things going on, I think you probably, hopefully are getting that information. But of course, mental health, behavioral health, mental health, substance abuse is an issue that we have a long ways to go before it's a good system in place. And that continually comes up. We also heard from Sanford that comes up in about 26 of their community health needs assessments area. And we know that the partners in this room have worked a lot to try to improve mental health services for people in our county. So one of the things when this came up, the thing that we decided to do was take a more comprehensive global approach to start with. A lot of times we're doing things to kind of patch systems, but I think what we need to do is like like in the Bush Grant we needed 4 wheels to make that car going. It doesn't go very well on 3 or 1. So we know we have lots of issues in the jail and all over the place, but we're looking at the whole system. And so with that, our goals are to, and we're following the triple aim, which is part of the Affordable Care Act. And we're putting a mental health component into that, and that's about including the patient experience. So we know that people with mental illness or behavioral health, it's a cumbersome experience for people, too, in many ways. We have great providers and services in the area, but the system itself needs a lot of work. And then we want to improve the health of the populations. We want to prevent or mitigate people from needing behavioral health, substance abuse services. And then we want to reduce costs because we know our healthcare costs are unsustainable. And so we've been looking at a number of things. And so one of the things that the goal of this project is to improve the policies. So there may be policies within systems, maybe policies within, it may be state or payer systems or any number of kinds of things. And then also just our practices. Our systems, it's a big issue. Our systems don't always talk to each other. People are doing assessments several different times. It's payers are paying for that, but there may be a need for it, but there's all kinds, it's a very complicated system. And then just community support, there's a lot of evidence out there about peer support programs and other programs that keep people out of the hospital. But we tend to go to the high-end services right away. So there's a number of things we're looking at, and we've been doing this since 2013 now. We've had several events and different things. People really are learning that we're working in silos, and that everybody keeps coming to the table. We've had full rooms, people talking about need to do something, but they're ready to move on. And one of the things that we really needed was help to do that. So we did write a Bush Grant. It's very huge. So we were able to get that. The state of Minnesota is also really looking a lot more at mental health services, how we do things differently. So it's right in line with what we're doing. And so with that, we wrote the grant. We did get it. And now we're asking that you agree with that, approve it.
Questions? Jenny?
Congratulations on receiving the grant. I know it's huge, so
Yeah.
that's a great thing. My question pertains to hiring. You'll hire the project manager with the funds from the grant. And if there's an end date of 2017, is that do you foresee that because that grant will run out, that programming will quit, or will you hope to continue that programming, meaning then the county will infer the cost of the employee? What do you see?
With grants always in our public health agency, and we're heavily funded by grants, we always hire the person with I mean, we let them know that, you know, this is grant funded, this project, particular project. If grant funds continue, great, project manager continues on. If the grant funds end, then, and there's nothing else in our department that person would qualify for, they know that there's an end date for grant funds, and we've always done that. We will probably look at contracting initially. That would maybe be a better option. We don't know. We'll need to have an individual that carries this initiative through. Like Gina said, it's huge, and you need a full-time person to just manage that. So I anticipate we'll maybe look at contracting an individual. We've done that in the past, especially with our SHIP project. We have contracted people. And if that's not feasible, then we certainly look at an employee option.
Kevin?
Yeah, so Kathy, your employee option then would also come with the benefits and everything. And as a contracted, it would be up to whoever we contract, whether that person would have the benefits that go with it or not. Correct?
Right, and they would have to determine their own
They would
benefits.
be working for somebody else under a contract with us.
Or they may be independent
Or
person.
independent.
Or they could be
Right.
independent.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
And
The over-
chances are, if they're independent, they probably already have their own
Correct.
benefit
Right,
system. So,
and insurance.
yeah.
Frank?
Is the money, what did you get, 200,000, something like that?
Yeah.
Plus
Right.
their,
Yeah.
if that money runs out before 17, what do we do?
Well, it'll be budgeted through 2017, and the grant should be, Bush grant is not a government grant, so they have committed to this. So we have a budget through that money, through the end of the grants, for that staff time and the other things. I guess I'm not sure I understand your question.
We manage that annually, so there's certain, amount of funds that are expended annually, but we have to stick to that budget pretty closely.
Okay.
So the money we have budgeted through 2017, or will be, so it will stick closely to that timeline and funding.
I was just wondering if we hire someone or we contract someone, oh, by the way, we got to do this too now, so do we have to, is there a possibility they're going to ask for more money or something like that, counting money?
No. This will be strictly
Right.
with the grant funding only. There won't be any request for county dollars.
Part of this is convening a lot of partners with, we're a neutral entity, and partly that's important in this because we're going to be looking at turf issues and things, and ideally, at the end of 2 years too, we'd also have, because of the changing reimbursement systems too, that organizations and agencies will find that they need to do things differently, and this kind of position that is a neutral kind of entity, it may not be us in the future, but somehow coordinating services, leading to that change in how we do things.
Okay. So at the end of 3 years, we just drop this program, or?
No. I mean, we're moving this. This isn't a program per se. This is a change in the culture, a shift in how people do things. So we're hoping by the end of 2 years that there will be systems changes, that there will be different ways that the organizations are working together, and that we know, along with reimbursement, it's going to change too how things are reimbursed, and so there will be the leverage for people to do things differently. Now there's probably 50 organizations at least involved in this project. Maybe at the end of this, they'll say, we need somebody to help support us, kind of continue to work together, or that to keep us going. And in my ideal world, that they would buy into that. It would be maybe us, and maybe a board or something like that, but I don't know if this makes sense. Doesn't make sense.
I mean, I guess I'm looking at, will this save us some money in the future, or is it going to cost us some money in the future?
Well, what the hope is that your mental health services and substance abuse costs will be either go down or at least stay level, because what we're trying to do is improve those systems. If you're, where we have law enforcement involved, we have ambulance services involved, we have everybody involved, and it's costing a ton of money. Just even an example of law enforcement standpoint, they're trying to get somebody in, they get back out, there's a cost at different levels and different systems. And I know I'm not explaining this very well, but But our hope is that if we can reduce just some of those crazy things happening out there, that we're going to save the county costs.
Let me take a shot at
Go for
explaining
it.
it.
Yeah. Go for it. It's too big.
I look at this as like a pilot program, in a sense where there's funds that are out there to try to have us research different ways to accomplish different things and improve on different ways that we currently administer and provide services. And sometimes that's what it takes, is a outside source. We're looking at trying to change the way people look at things and deal with things, and the way people think.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So that's, so it's, I look at it as a pilot program, and ultimately, if you can get everybody to change the way they think, and maybe the way even the public, and how often they might get checked for certain things medically that could, prevent things.
Access in the right way at the
That's
right
right.
time with the right people.
Yeah.
Wayne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I represent this board on both the local advisory councils of adult and children's mental health, and folks, it's becoming almost exponential. It's growing all the time. And this Bush Grant is wonderful. Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Bush Grant Award and also to approve to hire or contract one full-time equivalent as the project manager.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I want to just follow up on Commissioner Mojo's comments too, or questions. I think it's really important that what you're doing there, and we have a lot of grant positions in this county, and it can be scary as us as commissioners to see the potential of grants running out, and then what do we do with all of these employees that we've kind of promised jobs for, and then where would all those funds come from? So I really like what you're doing and the way you're going about it, and explaining to these people that right now, that's what this is. It's a grant-funded program. Help us get through it, and then we'll see down the road where that leads us. I don't think we're in any position to be guaranteeing
Right.
permanent placement of positions in that case. So I'm really happy the way you're doing that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
We'll keep you updated on this project.
Thank you.
2016 Prepaid Medical Assistance Program. Larry Young and Rhonda.
Morning.
Good morning. Morning.
Okay, Larry and I are here to talk with you about a re-procurement process that the state of Minnesota is doing with all of their managed healthcare organizations in the state. We were here 5 years ago. Every 5 years, the state does this with their managed healthcare, and at that time, we had Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Their product is called Blue Plus, and Medica serving in Clay County. And at that time, UCare had responded to the RFP, and so we decided to add UCare. So UCare is new within the last 5 years. This process, we had 4 managed care organizations respond to the RFP to serve our county. So in addition to Blue Plus, Medica, and UCare, Health Partners responded to the RFP as well. One of the pieces to the state's process, the county has a role in a sense, scoring one section of the RFP process. We were involved in submitting some questions that all of the managed care organizations would respond to in terms of how they might provide services in our county. We developed those questions as a region in our Region 4, so we all got the responses back and then had a chance to score them. So we had a team of people involved in the scoring. This is quite a process. We all had to sign attestations to privacy, and everything comes stamped and on CDs and coded, and so we had to keep everything pretty tight in the process. It was kind of interesting, but We met and spent several hours going through the questions and scoring them. We had our disability supervisor, our mental health folks, and Larry from our financial unit, public health, involved in that process. And we've sent that scoring to the state. But the second piece to that process then is to come before the board and talk with you about our recommendations for which managed care organizations would serve our county. Our recommendation is that we keep the 3 managed care organizations that we have. We're not recommending to add health partners at this time. There is, honestly, when folks come to the county and apply for a public health care program, there's a lot of information that we give to them if they're eligible to be put on a health program, and it can be quite complicated and cumbersome the more programs or organizations that we add. In fact, we're happy that we added UCare, but it has added work and complexity for our applicants. And so we feel that the 3 that we currently have are meeting the needs of our citizens. We think that it offers enough choice. We are required at a minimum to have 2 because we're considered a metropolitan statistical area, so we're required to at least have 2. And we meet that. We have 3. We think that that is the best position to take. The other piece that's important for the board to know is even though we may pass a resolution to support the 3, the commissioner of the Department of Human Services may decide that they want health partners to serve in our county, and that may happen. So we can give our recommendation and make a resolution, but the state may decide otherwise.
Okay. Questions? Jenny?
I heard last week, I believe, that Governor Dayton speaking about how the insurance costs are going through the roof, and will that affect these programs and on the same scale? Is that what you're hearing?
Well, for the public health care programs, this is medical assistance in Minnesota Care, and so what we do here won't necessarily change that, but the managed care organizations, the whole reason behind them is to try to contain costs and give those organizations opportunities to be creative in how they contain those costs and those kinds of things. So it won't, I'm not so sure that it'll, change the current situation, but.
And just adding this up quick, is it about 20% of our county's residents are on?
Yeah, no, these numbers at the bottom do not include our straight medical assistance members. So we have probably an additional 4,000 straight, 3,500 straight.
That are excluded for being on managed care.
Yeah.
On this, okay.
Yeah, so these folks are on the managed care, and then the straight MA folks, about another 3,500. So, yeah, a large percent.
Any other questions? The
I think
request is to approve the resolution supporting the social services recommendation.
I still move to approve that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Rhonda, did you have something you wanted to add?
I wasn't sure if I had included the maps in the packet, and it looks like I
You
did.
did.
So there you could see which, what counties have what plans, so.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Now, would the board have been required to read the full resolution or procedure?
Do you want me to?
Sure.
Good time. Sure, he says. Okay, the resolution is, whereas the Minnesota Department of Human Services has published a request for proposals to provide health care services to recipients of medical assistance and Minnesota Care in 87 Minnesota counties, including Clay County. And whereas the Minnesota Department of Human Services has requested county evaluations and recommendations regarding the RFP proposals from each respective county. And whereas Blue Plus, Medica, UCare, and Health Partners submitted proposals to provide managed health care services in Clay County. And whereas representatives of Clay County Social Services and Public Health have reviewed and evaluated the proposals, and whereas Blue Plus, Medica, and UCare collectively currently serve approximately 9,507 recipients of medical assistance in Minnesota Care in Clay County, and whereas the review team believes adequate choice and services are provided under the 3 existing managed care organizations, therefore be it resolved that the Clay County Board of Commissioners supports the recommendation of Clay County Social Services and Public Health approving Blue Plus, Medica, and UCare as managed care organizations providing managed health care services in Clay County. There you go. Thank you. Okay, we've got a few minutes here. Should we do our...
I could mention.
Sure. Yeah, we'll do our committee reports. Wayne, go ahead. You can start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have my notes with me, however, I did have family health care last week, and all is well there. And then for Lake Agassiz Regional Library, Northern Lights Library Network, there was an executive meeting and planning for their annual meeting. And other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Frank?
Wednesday, we had MetroCog, and we went executive committee meeting there. Went over the executive director's evaluation, 6-month evaluation, and looked over the personnel policies. Friday, we had the District 4 meeting at Wadena, where Kevin and you and I were there. They went over all the information, I guess, as far as what was done in the legislature this year, which I guess turned out not quite that much, you know. And then I guess what I thought was interesting was the MCIT report, and, where Robin Sykes gave a lot of information on what's costing us the insurance rate. I'm not the insurance rate, but who's been getting the benefits, not the benefits, but what's costing the MCI? Claims, yeah, the claims that are, thank you, Brian. And last night I went to Gooseberry Township meeting. We again discussed the jail information there. Gooseberry is on a contracted for road maintenance, and they're very happy with their road maintenance, and other than that, that was it.
Okay, thanks. Jenny?
Excuse me, my only committee meeting this last week was the Buffalo Red River Watershed last night, where there were, with the rain that we have had, there's some citizens that are concerned about some drain tile and some ditch overtopping, so just general business, I guess, and that's all I had.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, last Tuesday, I called for an administrative meeting with the Solid Waste Advisory Group and staff. This is in regards to our partnership with Prairie Lakes. And there's an issue, and I believe I brought this before the county board last week as well, that we've been not sending enough of our garbage to the incinerator per a contract. And so I asked to meet with Kirk and Steve from the city, and I found out in the process, and Grant, you were there as well, aren't you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what we found out is that there are currently some labor issues within the city of Moorhead's sanitation department, which makes it difficult to do this, and so we have to work to get that arrangement corrected. When we go into a contract with other counties and we tell them we're going to do something, we need to be doing it, and to this point we're not, and so it's kind of frustrating, but I think we might have a solution, and part of that solution might be that our solid waste group may have to provide a driver on occasion to run separate runs of these. Because what we do is we take everything from the Moritz transfer station to the landfill, but not all of it goes to the landfill, and once in a while some of it goes directly to Perham, and that creates a staffing problem. So there is a staffing problem, and there's actually a trailer problem. There's two issues that we're trying to work out, and hopefully we'll have that done soon. And I'll report back as soon as we have something on that. And then I too did attend the AMC district meeting in Wadena. And the legislative update was kind of nice to hear, even though there wasn't a lot to hear. And it's always nice to hear each county gives their county report too. And I want to thank Brian. He did a really nice job on behalf of Clay County in giving his report. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a question. So we're contracting that employee to make the runs to the incinerator in Perham. Are we paying Moorhead for that and it's not happening?
No, our contract is with Prairie Lakes, and the contract called for us to have up to 9,000 tons. And they have it broken down by month, how much they want from us. And that was part of the agreement. And technically, they really don't want any from us in the summer, because the summer months, they get all that extra activity within their own counties and lake country. Where they really need ours is in the spring and in the fall and the winter. And we have fallen way behind on what we're supposed to be sending.
But when you say we, is it Moorhead and Clay County?
Well, it's Clay County's responsibility, but most of the waste comes from the Moorhead transfer station, which Moorhead operates.
Right.
We work in conjunction with Moorhead with the solid waste transfer station facility. Ultimately, anything that goes to the landfill and solid waste in Clay County is the responsibility of the county. And we have to uphold our agreement as Clay County with Prairie Lakes. And so if Moorhead is falling short on their staffing abilities to help us get that material there, then we need to step up and do it. That's kind of what I'm saying, and we want to work that out. So, Brian, I don't know, did you want to add anything? Were you at that meeting?
No, I wasn't at the meeting,
Okay.
but Kirk brought me up to speed.
Okay.
And yeah, you're right.
Okay, I had that same meeting that Kevin was just addressing, and attended the AMC district meeting, and we did have a detention advisory. We discussed that also last Tuesday, and discussing our issue about our space needs at the detention center, and I think we've come up with maybe another possibility to address those needs, which we'll be working on in the future. So that was it for me. Brian, what do you have?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. The HR, Darren and Jennifer and myself met with Jim Oates. It's reference an employee benefit program, and just to review some options and see if there's some better insurance programs out there. We can save a little on our life insurance and things along those lines. And then I had a diversion administrative advisory meeting after that. Then we had a management team meeting and discussed a lot of policies and different things within the county. Then I attended the AMC district meeting as well, and Frank was nice enough to, or Commissioner Gross was nice enough to give me a ride over there and didn't throw me out halfway there. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good meeting. The legislative update, as we're well aware, there isn't a whole lot of updates on the legislature, but hopefully there's some more to come, and maybe there'll be some good news in there for Clay County when it gets finished. So we're kind of excited about that. There's some things happening now with MPCA in regards to that. Kirk's pretty excited right now, so we'll see what can happen there. But yeah, and MCIT's briefing was a very good one. That takes a big chunk of money out of the county every year. And you know, talking about insurance and liabilities and things, and your discussion with Kathy McKay in Public Health is good. You know, sometimes when we can contract for an employee rather than hiring them, it's probably a better deal, because you don't have the worker comp issues, you don't have the employment issues that may occur, and we experience some of those once in a while. So I was glad to see that she was looking at contracting just rather than hiring an employee. So that was very positive. But we had quite a lengthy discussion about the liability concerns and some of the things with law enforcement that have occurred and the liability that occurs. And we did talk about one little humorous thing, and that was the airplane going down the Highway 10. So it's kind of interesting. And also, I did, or Vicki did make copies of my material and put it in your guys' mailbox, the two that weren't there, so you can review those. I did receive late yesterday afternoon, and it was expected, but a letter of resignation from Tom, our Veteran Service Officer, so we'll have to bring that to you next Tuesday for a replacement and get started on that. And Chair has some ideas on selection committee and things along those lines, so we'll certainly entertain that. Tim and I have spent quite a few hours on property discussions, and we're having some real favorable responses to our the letter that went out last Tuesday, so we can hopefully give you an update on that fairly soon, and that's going well. And I think Steve's making real good progress on the detention issues that you talked about, Commissioner Whalen. So with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Jenny, you have anything?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break before our next item. So. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Last item on our agenda for the day is request for a letter of confirmation for Churches United application to the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency for funding. Rhonda? Good morning.
Okay, in your board packet, I sent several pieces of information, a letter prepared by Jane in regards to kind of an update of the status of their application and what's happened since last year. And then a board resolution that's being requested to be submitted with their application to Minnesota Housing Finance. And then also the county letter of confirmation that's required for their application process as well. And I believe that you also received 2 additional documents, the multifamily rental housing narrative, which gives more information. I think that was maybe emailed, as well as the workbook. Those 2 documents are referenced on the county letter of confirmation, which is new from last year, so we wanted to make sure that you had that as well. So I think I'm just going to turn it over to Jane and Dara to talk about the status of their application.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank you for putting us on your agenda. It's really nice to be back here talking about this project. We are more excited than ever about creating housing for the families and individuals that come to Churches United. And I think that we have only seen more evidence that there is not enough housing, there's not enough affordable housing, there's not enough support services for people when they get into housing since our last application. So the need just grows. And I can speak to that endlessly. We are really excited about a community engagement process that we did not have time for last year. And Churches United loves input. That's why we have 58 member churches. It's a complicated structure, but we love to get other people's ideas. We feel that the whole of us is better for it. So this community engagement process that we went through, I think, has really informed how we're going to create this neighborhood at 315 34th Street. And there were 2 steps to it. 40 stakeholders got together with architects and made plans, designs for this master site plan. And then we reviewed these plans April 30th. And a lot of people came to that. I gave you a summary of that design review. Many of the people, our friends in the audience, have seen this already, but it sort of describes what the design review was, the purpose of it, and who attended, and kind of what their feelings were. The interesting thing is that the top 5 things that people wanted were common spaces that anybody would want in any neighborhood, that you'd want for your children, your grandchildren, yourself. Places to walk, places to play, trees, a community garden, all those things. And as it turns out, because we bought this land and we needed to do something with it, we have gotten some help from Grow Together, the community garden association of Fargo-Moorhead, and we now have a community garden on the site, a little shed with window boxes and an outhouse, and we planted it May 30th, and we till it and weed it every Thursday from 3 to 6, and people are welcome to join us. We hope to share the vegetables with the neighboring, with the neighbors, the abutting neighborhoods. Feeling like this is a fabulous way to begin the kind of community that we want to create in this little corner of Moorhead. And so I guess our application is this year for 42 units of housing, 21 for families, 21 for singles. It's a mix of efficiencies, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and 4 bedroom. Some of the amenities that we're offering the families are any unit that has 2 or more bedrooms is going to have a washer and dryer in the unit. A small thing that most families take for granted when they're raising children. It's incredibly hard to go out of your house with laundry. The 3 and 4 bedroom apartments all have 2 bathrooms. Things that will, should homelessness and the need for affordable housing leave the community, we will then have very nice market rate housing available. You'll see on the site plan that among the things that we're preparing for, if it does get to be a market rate place way down the road, there's room for garages.
Is that Site C?
Pardon?
Is that Site C?
Site C, yes. So what I've given you is a site plan here. And the community engagement process that we went through gave us lots of ideas for what we might want to try to encourage to happen on the other Site A and B. Site C is where we're hoping to locate the housing. It's the west end of the lot, and it is probably the best for residential for our children. The other places, the other sites are, we're trying to figure out what to do with them. We're probably going to parcel them and sell them. But this application is about developing this site. The application we're submitting to Minnesota Housing Finance June 18th is for about $8 million for these 42 units of housing in a 3-story building with wonderful common space. I'll end by talking to you about the common space. I am so excited. I can almost hear the children in this building at this point. There are, at the front entrance, besides there being a front desk where everybody gets checked in, comes and goes, so that people who have been given help all of their life, or much of the times when they've been struggling, they often want to invite people in to their apartments when they've gotten a place to live, to return the favor that was given to them. When they were homeless, often somebody took them in for a while before they ended up at the shelter. So one of the things that permanent supportive housing does is it provides support for people to make sure that only the people who are supposed to be living there are living there, and to kind of watch the traffic in a most friendly way, not in a punitive way, but a friendly way. But in the common spaces, there's going to be kind of a fireside room, which is have a fireplace and a lounge area where people can have birthday parties. There's going to be a community room where most of the folks will be able to sit and share a meal, have a class, that sort of thing. There will be case management offices and a place for children to play, gross motor skills, and then also just a more quiet activity space for children. There's going to be a fitness room for adults, and then a shared laundry for the singles in the building.
I have to insert here that your Partnership for Health employees were very active in giving their input, and they definitely wanted us to have that gross motor skills play area for the children, the fitness room for the adult, and the walkable areas, as well as the community garden.
Right.
And
they've invested in the community
and
garden.
I don't know if you can tell that those 4 little rectangles in the northeast corner of Lot C are the community garden spots that would remain on that parcel.
And I should say I'm Dara, I'm the president of the Churches United Board, and I cannot give up the opportunity to plug the fact that we have 2 potential parcels for sale in a wonderful commercial area in Moorhead on the heavily traveled 34th Street. And that's one of the reasons when we're looking at the location is that there are multiple uses that could be made of that street frontage, and we certainly want to make those uses amenable with both residential housing and the services and retail that's available in that community right now as well.
So are you saying that Site A and Site B could potentially be up for sale?
Yes.
Okay. I know I attended your deal at the MCOMST, and I know there was some discussion about that you might, after your plans, realize that the 10-acre site might be more than what you actually need, and that you would look at probably. Okay.
Yes, thank you all for attending. Many of you were very actively involved in the process. I would say that we were very, very pleased to see how many city and county officials and employees all took their time out of their schedule to participate, and that was very helpful for all of us. But it's always been our desire to make the best use of the site. We always knew we didn't need 10 acres, but to find space in Moorhead that is appropriately zoned, that is a good fit for this type of development is challenging, and we really, although we couldn't, disclose last year exactly where the site was, we really did investigate a lot of different sites within Moorhead to try to determine where was the best fit. There's just not that much land currently available for development that's not in an industrial park, that's not right next to a railroad track, in places where it's good for residential use and where you'd want to live and where you'd want your children to live. And so we did put a lot of thought into that. And, I think that the community has appreciated the opportunity this year to be able to express themselves. And I would say that there's been a significant shift in acceptance, and we're very grateful for that. And we very much have appreciated the opportunity to have that interaction.
Okay, thank you. Well, I support, there's no question there's a need for this type of housing in our community, in our county. I supported this when it came before us last year. I rescinded that support because we didn't have the location disclosed to us. And I still have that issue that the neighborhood that's impacted by this didn't have an opportunity before it was already done, and the decisions were already made to at least have some input into it. And so, to me, it's an issue of transparency, at least in terms of what elected officials do. And I can't support that location, but I do support the need for the housing. So, any other comments?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to this. First off, I think there's something else that I want you to spend more time talking on. You've spent a lot of time talking on the site itself and how you're planning to lay it out. The critical component that we are here to confirm is the need. I want you to spend some time talking about the need.
Sure.
Tell us why.
Sure.
You've got some numbers here. Tell us why. That's the issue that this board's dealing with.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, now that we have talked about, and you brought the site plan, I would like to ask, what sort of a buffer would there be? Because it appears that you're abutting right up to the 55 and older area.
Probably an 8-foot vinyl fence, very similar to the
Okay.
one that's behind Churches United now.
Okay, my concern there is that I would not want to see residents of this property or any other property that would be put there just thinking they can just go walking across somebody else's private property, say to go to the Legion or someplace over in that area. I think there needs to be some sort of a buffer zone or way to discourage that from happening.
Sure. And we've had a lot of conversations with our architects. And I just have to express our gratitude. We had 7 volunteer landscape and design architects that helped participate with the design charrettes and the community inputs. But Rory's architects have also been working with us. And one of the things we're looking at, because we received that message from the community that they did not want people accessing their private property. And so we both have been looking at fencing options and landscaping options with things like evergreen type of things and prickly bushes that discourage traffic through them. And so we have tried to look at attractive ways in order to strongly discourage.
Well, whatever it
any
is,
type
it
of-
needs to be attractive for them too. So,
Certainly, yep, and we've
Yeah.
really been looking at how can we attractively discourage that as a walking or other mode of traverse across anybody's land. And so we heard that message, and we are trying to address it in the most appropriate way that we can, that is recommended to us.
I want to make a comment and follow up to what Commissioner Whalen said. I shared the concern last time around. I 100% believe there's a need for this. I don't think there's anybody sitting at this table who does not disagree with that. As a matter of fact, 90% of the people, 90-some% of the people who call me from over in that area, one of the first things they told me is we agree with the need.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that they were concerned about where it was going. And they have every right to have that concern. But in my position, I'm more interested in the need. I don't want to see kids coming out of a what you currently have for a facility on First Avenue North, kids going out of a structure like that and getting on a school bus to go to school. That just isn't right. And I don't care what kind of clothes they have on or what color they are. None of that should make any difference to anybody. They're as equally important as all of us are. Having said that, I think from the public standpoint, if you could, going back though, I was a little, and Dara, you brought it up too, about the last time the disclosure of the site wasn't given to us. And the question was asked during our process, and it wasn't given, but yet it was on the application. And that really kind of gave us heartburn on this board, at least a few of us heartburn on this board, that we felt blindsided that the site came up after we had talked about when we had asked if you knew the site. So that created a sense of non-transparency on our part. And I know it bothered our board chair and it bothered me. But again, there's two issues here, and I've said it before. You bought this property and it's zoned for that type of facility. That becomes a city issue. The issue that our board needs to be dealing with is the need. So please talk to me about the need.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. I suppose the most stark way of describing it is that we do not shelter all the people that need shelter in the community. We turn away families and singles every night. And since, was it May 1st?
From May 15th from April 15th through May 26th.
We turned away 60 families.
Separate and discrete. They tracked the names, the household size. Those were 60 families with children from our community, because they also discouraged out-of-state callers from even coming to the area because of the lack of housing. 60 discrete households with children, non-duplicative, that were told there is no room for you in any space in our community.
And among the reasons there is no space, we have 8 family rooms, and then we take up to 8 families on overflow, which means mats on the floor in our community center. So we're housing every night, sheltering every night, 16 families, which is about usually 30 to 40 children in the house. The reason we are not turning families over is because of the lack of housing, the lack of affordable housing. It is really difficult to find housing anyway in this community, but when you've possibly had an eviction, which led to your homelessness, if you had some credit issues, or if you have any kind of criminal background, it makes it very hard to rent a place. So people get stuck with a voucher, ready to pay the rent, just looking for a place for months, literally. We've had families stay there as long as 11 months. So if there were housing, we would turn this around much faster. People do fall on hard times, but, you know, they're ready. People get ready in a month or 2 or 3, you know, really ready. And there's money there for them to pay rent, to get them started again. But there's no place to live, really. And, you know, we have, every year since we've been tracking in 2003, we have gone from 33 people overnight in our shelter to an average nightly number of 33 to 90-something. And this is not, we're not alone in this. Every shelter in the community is facing high numbers, and every shelter is doing the best they can to accommodate the increased need. But every shelter like us is turning people away.
But what you're doing here is you are moving these qualified individuals, and I want to just read from the first paragraph of the resolution here. And it says there exists a significant number of veterans, elderly persons, individuals with disability conditions, and families with children who are present and homeless in Clay County. Those don't sound like bad people to me.
They're not.
They sound like people who have fallen on hard times.
That's exactly what they are.
And what you're doing is you're trying to put them into an apartment.
We're trying to help, we're trying to increase the housing stock that is affordable and that has supports
But
with
you're
it.
putting them into an affordable apartment.
Yeah, we're putting them into apartments. And if I can put on my hat as the Clay County
Right.
Housing Authority Director, we see this incredible lack of affordable apartments, affordable housing throughout Clay County for every type of household who is low or moderate income. We have, like a family of 4 could live in our public housing if they were making $60,000 a year or less. We have 63 households on our waiting list just for Holly and Euland. We won't even take any applications for Dilworth anymore because that wait is so outrageous. I mean, not that Holly and Euland are not delightful places to live, but the huge demand is within the Moorhead, Dilworth, and closer to the metro area demands. We also administer over 100 rental assistance vouchers for folks who would qualify for permanent supportive housing. So that's rental assistance and support service dollars that we receive as a housing authority to help these households find and maintain a place to live in the private market. The units are not there. We typically have 20 households minimum each and every day out there searching for a place to live that cannot find a place. People with a regular Section 8 Housing Choice voucher typically take at least 4 months to find an affordable housing unit in this community, even if they have no barriers, if they have good credit, if they have no criminal background. You know, we've kind of reached a critical level, and never in the almost 20 years that I've been working with poverty issues in Clay County have I seen it where a shelter has turned away 60 households with children. And all I can think of when I'm here in front of the county commissioners is the impact that has on county social services and other county paid for expenses. Because when you have that many folks in critical crisis situations that have no stable place to live, it taps on all of your other resources.
For the next 20 years, because those children are going to be struggling because of their homelessness for years to come.
And that's why we asked for the GRH contract as well, because we truly believe in the studies out of places like Utah, where they invest a lot of state funds, and other places show that those investments of funds in permanent supportive housing saves government dollars overall. This is a cost-saving measure.
I don't know what your process will be to determine the eligibility and who goes into those facilities. One of the things that I would like to stress to you, and I think it's something that with goodwill amongst all of your neighbors, one of the things that I heard time and time again is that our own residents of Clay County should receive first priority for this getting into this facility. There's obviously going to be some county funds going through Health and Human Services. Well, it's probably state money, but it's administered through the county. And I would hope that that our first priority would be to take care of our Clay County residents first.
And that's one thing with the GRH, if we're able to receive the agreement with the county for the GRH, people have to have established Minnesota residency. And the way that we're doing it, they would have been folks who stay at the Churches United shelter. And people sometimes get distorted perceptions of who's staying there. The majority of folks are from Clay County.
Well, then that's...
You know, and so we really want to stress that these are locally grown, locally raised, locally homeless folks. And we are really trying to end that. And there's the national goal is to end veterans homelessness this year, and we're really close. We are very close in Clay County, and we think that if we have this facility, we might be able to get there. And we've been working with the VA on this, and they have a special support services program as well as the Fargo Housing that provides those in Clay County as well. And so we really think this is an opportunity to actually end homelessness for veterans in Clay County, and we're excited to have that option.
Right?
How do you, when you say establish home residency in Clay County, how do you establish residency? I mean, if you're homeless, how do you establish residency in Clay County?
And I'll turn that over to the experts.
Well, basically, you have to stay one night in Clay County to establish residency.
But for GRH, isn't it a GA basis for 30 days? Or?
I would say most of the time it's the one night.
Okay, anybody else that would like to be heard on this? Jenny?
I did not serve on the board last year when you came forward, so I think the past is the past, and from the time that I've been serving on this board, I have observed you being very proactive to get community input as you move forward. I was able to attend your meeting at the MCOMST, and I appreciate the fact that you held that, because I think some critical components came forward in your plan. It's really easy to be critical of a project of this magnitude when you can hop in your own car and go home and stay in your own bed. It's very easy to be critical. These are children that go to school with our children and grandchildren. 60 families do not have homes, and it is very important that we support something like this. The city can do what they want when they want to decide where a plan should go, but these are people that are going to be contributing to our community. And if you talk about the importance of a pilot program with this $200,000 grant that we just got, to be able to set someone up for success, we're setting people up for success to where someday down the road they can give back to this community. And so I think in any way that we can support this, it's important that we do.
Anybody else? Wayne?
Yes, I wasn't here last year when this took place, but you would have had my support. Every church that's involved with Churches United has one of the central teachings is you feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and shelter the homeless. That's pretty standard in any church. Nowhere in those teachings does it say where it should be or where it should not be.
That's true.
Mr. Chair, I move that we support the letter of request that's presented in front of us.
Have a motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody else that would like to be heard in the audience on this issue? Rhonda?
I just had a question on the county letter of confirmation. One of the questions is, would modifications make the proposal more successful? And the one thing I heard was kind of that buffer area, so I could certainly add a statement.
I would like that.
Okay. And the other piece that was not completed on this prior to board today is number 2, which asks the county to rate their level of participation. Pat and I can certainly go through that and answer those unless you have some input and want to go through that as a group.
Run that by me again, please.
Question number 2 on the county letter of confirmation.
Right here?
Okay, so.
No, it's the resolution.
Not the resolution, but the, looks like, So there's some questions that need to be scored in terms of, does the proposal address the county's priorities and housing needs? ranking them with 1 to 5, 1 disagree and 5 agree, and then so on.
If I may, Mr. Chair, following information will help. Does the proposal address the county's priorities and housing needs? The answer would be yes. 5. Has the county worked with the service provider in the past? Yes. The county has been involved in the planning of this development proposal. What would you say to that?
Yes.
Is it feasible? I would say yes. Some people might disagree. If the proposal moves forward, does the county think the provider has sufficient organizational capacity to secure the resources and provide services to the target population on the scale envisioned by this proposal? What do you say to that?
We would agree.
Would you give all of these 5s?
Yes.
Thank you. Be part of my motion.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments?
Just before the vote is taken, I want it to be known that as this letter was sent by Churches United by Jane Alexander to Brian Berg, our administrator, and given us as part of our packet, they were basically asking us to do 2 things. And the first one was the approval of a resolution identifying the need for permanent supportive housing for households who are homeless in Clay County, an agreement to enter into a group residential housing agreement with Churches United for the homeless for permanent supportive housing. That's one issue. It's an issue that goes back to what Darlene said. It can probably be more expensive to our county to not have this than to have it. That's in addition to having a place for them to go. We also have an awful lot of Clay County taxpayers, surprisingly, who are often concerned that their taxes are too high. And this is one way to help support that they don't get higher. And number 2, the completion of the county letter of confirmation, and that's the part that we just talked about, and Commissioner Ingersoll went through and asked questions in regards to the 5 boxes that were checked, and then, of course, the rest of the answers that are there. And I do appreciate that you would add in there that I am strongly concerned about a buffer zone that would make it difficult for people to walk back in somebody's private property. So I'm going to, I was very upset the last time of this, the way it was presented. I'm going to make myself very clear on that. But I never denied the need. I'm voting on the need today, and I will support the need 100%. When it comes to where it goes, I still believe, and I think Commissioner Ingersoll said it once before, it's a zoning issue within the city. The city has zoned it to meet your requirements. It's none of the county's business on how something is zoned. We don't do that. Our vote is for the need, and by golly, we need it. So I'm going to support the motion.
Okay, Mickey, you want to call the roll?
Campbell.
Aye.
Rose.
Yeah, aye.
Ingersoll.
Yes.
Moser.
Aye.
Whalen.
No. Motion passes. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Nothing else? We're adjourned.